happy Aloha Friday, everyone. We usually meet on Monday, but this is an Aloha Friday meeting.
Exactly.
So it's June 29, 2018. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Water Supply. I'd like to call to order. And we're going to start with the items requiring board action. First up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the public hearing and regular meeting held on May 29th, 2018.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Second. I hope you have all reviewed the minutes. Are there any changes, corrections, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the minutes are approved. The second item is the annual election of the chair and vice chair of the Board of Water Supply for a term beginning July 1st, 2018.
Chair and I. Would you like to continue?
I would be honored to continue if you have me.
I second.
Unless someone else wants to jump up and take hers.
I second the motion.
Okay, I feel like do I call for the question?
I
Discussion?
think we should have discussion for just a minute.
All right, well, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, motion
Can I
passes.
Make a motion for vice chair.
Absolutely.
I move to put Kapua's vote as vice chair.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second on the floor. Member Sproat as vice chair. All those in, any discussion? Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much, members, for your vote of confidence in myself and Kapua. We will work diligently. Please don't hesitate to call us, talk to us at any time during the year. Thank you again. Third on the agenda is calling for an authorization of a public hearing to consider revisions to the schedule of rates and charges for the furnishing of water and water service for fiscal years 2019 through 2023. Manager Lau?
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations, Chair and Vice Chair, on your re-election. You're doing a great job. What we're seeking here is, based on the feedback we've received so far on the proposed water rates and charges, that the board authorize a public hearing to be held on August 27th, 2018 at 2 o'clock here in this room for the consideration of a resolution to adopt the proposed changes to the schedule rates and charges. The reason for the action being proposed in August as opposed to July is that we did appear before the State Small Business Regulatory Review Board pre-adoption, and it does require us to provide at least 30 days notice for the public hearing. Since this meeting is held today on the 29th, there's no way to achieve a 30-day period in July, so we're kind of giving ourselves more time by going to August. It allows for more input from the public too, because we will continue to meet outreach to neighborhood boards and others regarding the rate proposal. So our recommendation is to authorize the public hearing to be held on the 27th. 30 days, at least 30 days prior, we would publish the notice and also the proposed schedule of rates and charges.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the public hearing for July?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
That's the day of our normal meeting.
It's actually, I think in August, July, it's going to be the 23rd. In August, yeah, the 27th is this.
Is the actual day, right?
Right.
So we would then follow the public hearing?
Right. So the public hearing will be held first, much like the budget. So the public hearing is actually held before the regular board meeting. And then the regular board meeting would, if the board members feel comfortable, decide to formally adopt
And
after the public hearing.
who's the hearing officer? Is it the chairman of the board?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The other thing that needs to happen after the board, if the board were to take action in August, probably in September, we would approach the Small Business Regulatory Review Board to report back to them what was actually adopted by the board.
That would be pretty awkward to hear from the public and then make a decision that day, 1 hour later.
That is typically how it's done, has been done in the past. Keep in mind that we already have held 4 public hearings around the island on the proposed rates and charges. So this would be like, in effect, the 5th hearing, but the hearing that is actually in front of the board.
Okay.
And I think later on in the agenda, we will have a summary and update of those 4 public hearings that were held prior to this meeting, at which numerous testifiers did appear and actually did testify.
Right.
Yes. And the notes of which are attached actually in the informational item from those 4 public hearings.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion, second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, motion is approved. Next up on the agenda is the selection of an alternative for fee waivers for affordable housing, homeless and automatic fire sprinkler retrofit projects as part of the proposed schedule of rates and charges. Chair recognizes Deputy Manager Ellen Kitamura.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya. And Vice Chair Sproat, thank you so much for, we really appreciate your service. Look forward to working with you again for another 5 years. Today, what we're going to do is show you the alternatives that we are proposing for the fee waivers for affordable housing, homeless, and fire sprinklers. Back in January, the board asked us to take a look at all of the options and do some research and come back with some suggestions or alternatives. And today I'd like to present 3 of them for you. So the first alternative here is based on the estimated annual subsidy that we got from the city housing projections. So the Department of DPP and the other city agencies we got together with them, and then this is what they estimate on an annual basis that they think will be for homeless, affordable housing, and also for the fire sprinkler retrofit. So as you see here in the first line, they're estimating about 715 dwelling units per year. I've included the meter charges and what we expect the water systems facilities charge, which is in the 4th column, to be, for a total subsidy of about $1.4 million. The City Council has also approved through some resolutions some 201H projects, and we're estimating 170 dwelling units per year. The meter charges about 40,000, and the water systems facilities charges associated with that is about 325,000, for a total of 365,000 total subsidy. The homeless projects, they're estimating 75 dwelling units, and then you can see the calculations there. For the fire sprinkler retrofit programs, this is the one that the city is asking for us to help subsidize existing apartments and high-rises that choose to retrofit their buildings with automatic fire sprinklers. And then this is mainly based on the Marco Polo fire. So we're not exactly sure how many people are going to take advantage of this, but then through our estimate, we're kind of saying maybe 25 to 40% may. So this is the range, and this is the higher 40%, which came up to be about $40,000 per year. So the annual estimated subsidy that we think may happen if we go according to what the city's housing projections are is about $2 million per year. Okay, so that's the first alternative. The second alternative that we were asked to look at is what if we limit the dwelling units to 500 annually? So based on our calculations, we're assuming that the number of fixture units per dwelling unit, and this is based on what our actual numbers are for projects that have come in, about 20 single family, which actually amounts to about 10 dwelling units per year. That might be a little bit easier to see. Multi-units, 455, and homeless, 35, for a total of 500 units. And then this is can be any number of developments that come in, because some developments will be there, and then you would only have maybe a percentage of it being affordable or even homeless. And then for the fire sprinkler retrofit, we kept the same numbers. So essentially, it's about 971,000. Yes?
Ellen, couple questions. Going back to alternative one.
Yes.
The dwelling units per year, those are just estimates. There's no guarantee that those are going to
There is no guarantee. And then this is just numbers because they're really starting to gear up, and they, meaning the city, starting to really support the homeless and affordable units. So this is something that's just starting. We're kind of thinking they are just projecting this is what they think is going to happen. Yeah, so there's no guarantee on this.
And then for alternative number two, for the total dwelling units per year, that column, the allocation of the units, 10 single family, 455 multi-unit, and so far. Those could change as well.
That's true. These are just estimates that we're thinking may be reasonable just based on what the city's projecting and what we've seen approved so far.
I see that here you've estimated 10 dwelling units per year, and it looks like it comes from the city's projection, which is noted on alternative one, which is 12 single family units per year. That's how you got that.
Yes, it is. And because that's actually, for the single family affordable housing units, the only numbers they really have are what we got from DPP. And then these are generally the single family homes in the Eva Villages area. So we tried to, because we really didn't know, the basis of our calculations really is from what we got from the city.
Okay, and so for alternative number two, even if we cap it at 500 units, the estimated annual amount of subsidy may vary.
Yes.
Because the single family has a higher water systems facility charge.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And really, it's that if you cap it by units, it really doesn't matter. It could be no single family comes in, everything could be multi-unit, and it could be one development coming in with 500 affordable units, and then that would be it, actually. And then the numbers, as far as the water system facilities charge, and I didn't include a meter in here because it was very difficult to figure out, well, how many developments are this going to be? But you could actually have one development come in, and then that would be it. as far as the capping of, for 500 units.
So under this scenario, if the 500 units is reached, for that fiscal year, the allocations on waivers is expended. It would have to wait till the next year, and it doesn't carry over to the next year. So another 500 allocation would be available the following year and each subsequent year.
That'd be a wonderful problem to have.
I'm sorry.
That would be a wonderful problem to have.
Yeah, if it actually reached 500
Yeah.
a year for every year.
Yeah.
Again, the estimates are just estimates. There seems to be inquiries about different types of projects, but remember that these waivers would be given at the time of building permit, submission of construction drawings, so real projects actually reaching the construction stage.
And then we added a third alternative, and this is actually to give the board a flexibility of what, if alternative 1 and alternative 2, maybe you wanted to do some sort of a meld between them, but essentially the fee waiver cap will be determined by the board. It would apply only to affordable housing and homeless residential dwelling units, as will alternatives 1 and 2. And the waivers for the fire sprinkler system would be the one-time cost that's associated. And mainly, this is really the meter cost that's associated with the fire sprinkler project. So those are the 3 alternatives. We can go back to them and review them during the discussion phase. I just wanted to just put in this additional information to kind of help maybe get some details to clarify, well, what do these fee waivers, are there any other requirements? So we wanted to make sure that the fee waivers are for certified projects from the city, meaning that they would have to get a letter or a memo saying, yeah, from the city, and we're not sure which department will be in charge of this, so we kind of left it generic, just the city, to certify that, yes, this is an affordable project, this is a homeless project. We want to not have just developers coming in and saying, I have an affordable project, please give me a waiver. So this is something that we actually want to make sure that it's been vetted through the city, and the city supports it. The eligible fees would be waived when the building permit is submitted for review. So it's not something that they're conceptually thinking about it and saying, can you please give me a waiver? So this has to be a project that is ready to go. Fee waivers will not be retroactive, that only the projects submitting building permits on or after the effective date will be considered, unless the project had come in ahead of time and gotten approval from BWS for a fee waiver. And we've had that in a couple instances, mainly for homeless projects. The fee waivers will apply only to fixture units associated with the affordable housing and homeless dwelling units. And where this is important is the water systems facilities charges. We do calculate that on fixture units. The meter charge is a little bit more difficult because it would have to be a percentage. So that's something that we'd like the board to consider, whether or not you actually wanted to both the meter charge and the water system facilities charges. We can go back to the alternatives, but the water system facilities charges is actually the larger component. If we try to do a percentage of the meter, it's really a small amount, and then that actually is a little bit more tracking-wise for the staff. It makes it a little bit more difficult. So something that we'd like the board to consider if you want to have actually both the water system facilities charge and the meter charges.
Our recommendation is actually just to focus purely on the water system facilities charge, which is very well documented in their building, in their construction plans and applications. So it'd be much easier to calculate on that basis. And it is a larger incentive as a waiver than the meter installation,
But
or meter charge.
On the alternatives, in each case, you say for affordable housing and homeless projects, the waiver would include both the meter costs and the water system facility.
I know the written report actually says that, but I think what we're seeking actually is to see if the board is open to considering just the water system facility charge.
So you would strike the meter cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time that we were doing the alternatives, we weren't really clear what the direction was going to be, so that's the reason why we had put that in. But then today, we're requesting direction from the board, and based on your decisions, those alternatives can be
Do
altered.
you know what the subsidy will drop to?
Let me go back to.
I think in alternative one, you can see it.
Yeah, this is probably the best that you can see. So the meter charge, and then this is actually the full cost of the meter. As you can see, it's very minute compared to the actual water systems facilities charge. So for the most part, when you look at the meter charge, you can maybe assume it's like 20 or 30% of the cost that you see there, because if the affordable unit that comes in, a lot of it is like maybe 20 or 30%. Now, in the homeless projects, they're actually 100% homeless. So the 56,000 that you see there is probably the true cost. And that's where the calculations can be a little bit more difficult for staff if we start looking at percentages. Okay, so to finish up on the additional information, the costs, as I said before, for the retrofit fire sprinklers would be the one-time charge, and then this is basically the meter charge. We plan to report quarterly to the board on the dwelling units and all of the fee waivers that have been approved so far, just to kind of give you an idea where we are. And then instead of doing annually, we thought quarterly would be better. The effective date of the fee waiver program will be established when the board adopts a new schedule of rates and charges. And unless it's extended to the board, we did want to have a firm sunset date on this, which we have set as June 30th, 2023 is when the 5-year rate schedule is
completed.
Okay, so I think maybe the best chart for you to kind of get a feel of the cost is the first alternative. 500 units, as you can see, let's see, yeah, for this one, the total units, 960, which is about a little less than half of the 500. So units, if you do a 500 unit cap. So these are the numbers that will kind of give you a good feel of what you'd be looking at as subsidies.
You know the meter charges that in alternative one? So these meter charges that appear on this chart, they're estimates based on?
It's estimates based on the number of units. So like, excuse me, in the first one, you have 12 single-family units. So there's a specific cost associated with that meter. It's a 3/4 inch. I think it was like maybe about $3,000. I don't exactly know how much. But the multi-units, we don't really know. So I think I was estimating maybe about 2 or 3 per year. And then again, you know, it is an estimate, and it's based on, I believe, a 6-inch meter. So that's the meter cost and this one-time charge that we associate with the meter size. And then, so that's how I did my calculations.
And the difficulty in estimation with respect to these meter charges have to do with the fact that some units in a multi-unit project will be affordable and some will be
Market.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
And there could also, yeah, so you could have a mix.
And the water systems facilities charges is a lot easier because you know how many affordable units you have, you know what the fixture count is in that, so it's pretty much a straight up mathematical computation.
It would also be consistent with Bill 59, which has been signed into an ordinance, the Affordable Housing Incentives Bill, which for the sewer charges looked at the sewer impact fees.
members. Any questions?
Yeah. there's a huge difference between alternate one and alternate two.
Yes.
And the biggest difference is in the definition of affordable. You have here DPP projects and then 201H projects and homeless projects. There are many private projects that will have 20%, but they will not be 201H and they will not be city. So they're not going to qualify. And that's my struggle with alternate one. So I would prefer alternate two, which doesn't define.
A little bit more
It
flexible.
allows DPP to certify that you have an affordable housing unit. And it caps, you know, we only have 500, it's a reasonable cap on us. So I, for one, prefer project two, alternate two. I do want you to be somewhat careful though in your words, because I'm assuming that this becomes our rule or our law.
Yeah, right.
These are not, we're not talking about affordable housing projects, because it may not be an affordable housing project, it may just be a project with 20% affordable in it. And so you need to talk about affordable housing units.
Units, yeah, dwelling units.
You know, requiring certification by DPP is a great idea. So I have a number of places where I would suggest you make some changes.
We welcome your recommendations.
Mike, we can do it after, or we can do it now, or I don't care how you want to do it.
So what this is actually helps us now put together a more final draft version of the schedule, rates and charges.
Oh, okay.
So we welcome your input after the meeting or between the meetings to actually help craft the clarity of the language. That's very important. And I agree with you. Projects is a broad term, but it could be components of a larger project that are affordable, that they should be afforded the opportunity for an incentive, a waiver.
Right, as long as they're being defined as affordable units, it's certified by DPP, I'm sure that ENV needs the same thing, because they're not gonna write off sewer connections for
That's correct.
everybody.
Right.
And so as long as we're using the same definition there.
If the board is open to that, we're glad to receive input from the board members after this meeting, and also from the permanent interaction group too.
Okay. The only other question I had was on retroactive. You said we're not going to be retroactive. Whatever the city's Bill 59 passed, I'm assuming that was the trigger for the city's approvals.
I need to double check that.
It just would be
the precision.
good to be consistent.
Right.
Okay.
The challenge is that there are some projects that requested waivers prior, like a homeless project out in the Sand Island area. And we basically said, okay, well, we're considering proposed rules. We've deferred collection of the water system facilities charges and other charges for that project while the board is deliberating what it wants to do. So there is only a few of those. I think there's maybe a couple of them that.
It's actually, yeah, mainly the homeless projects that have been
Not affordable
requested.
housing.
Right, that's what I figured, since we're giving it at building permit, right?
Yes.
Right.
So that's a year or two from now for most cities.
Yeah, so there seems to be a lot of interest in trying to develop housing units, but not all of it's reached building permit stage, where they have all their entitlements approved in hand, so they can move now towards construction.
Well, what do you want us to do about the Sand Island project? I mean, what are you recommending we do?
I think since we offered it as a deferral pending the board's potential consideration, I would be open to allowing them to be qualified for the waivers, but this is only on an exception. These are a few exceptions.
I think the concern, what it seems like the department's concern is you don't want all the projects just coming out of the woodwork now.
That are already in construction, now they come back and they say,
saying, yeah, by the way, can I get a refund of, the fees that I paid?
Okay,
yeah.
I think that's a concern.
okay.
So I hear, and so just to, right, and so to make sure I understand, so are we suggesting that we, because right now, Ernie, you're saying that you'd be open to considering, and I can only remember one homeless project, right, that specifically requested.
Yeah, there.
waivers. So are we saying then that, just to be consistent with Bill 59, that we should, consider projects only in the for business?
Except for those few exceptions that have already, in discussion with us, we've sent letters to them
Right.
indicating that this might be considered in the future.
But what I'm wondering, I'm saying, is there a concern about considering those exceptions even?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with those, maybe two. Beyond that, I would be concerned that it might be an open door for retroactivity of this action here, and then it would kind of spin out of control.
Right, okay, that's fine.
Members, any further questions or discussion? I have one. I want to talk about the meter charges. I know that it seems like the recommendation right now is to not waive the meter charges because of the difficulty in estimating and I guess budgeting for what that amount may be to waive the meter charges.
Right.
Are you folk, are the members okay with that? I do want to point out that for the homeless projects, it's a larger percentage of the total subsidy. The meter charges are a bigger percentage.
According to this table for alternative number 1,
Yeah.
that's correct. So it is a board's decision if they would like to consider both, or I think our recommendation is really the water system facilities charge, but it's a decision of the board. If you want to consider also the meter charge.
Alternate 2, the 971,650 includes an estimate on water meter charge.
Let's see now.
No, I don't think so.
No, this one for alternative 2, because I really didn't know how many projects, it was really hard for me to get a handle on, so this is strictly water systems facilities charge.
Okay.
So if the meters were included, then the annual housing subsidy would be a little higher. It's just that I couldn't figure out how to make a best guess on that.
How much higher it might be, but probably in the range of it may take it closer to $1 million a year.
So perhaps, given that, and I'm open for feedback from the board, perhaps it seems like the consensus is to go with alternative number 2, because from a finance perspective, it's good to have a cap on things so it doesn't spiral out of control. And I think we could always reconsider if some, during the year.
In the future.
But since the meter charges are such a small amount, perhaps we can do both the meter charges and the water systems facilities charge under alternative number 2, limiting this to 500 units annually.
The one, we discussed this a bit in the PAG, I think, right? Just as far as it's really difficult to calculate. And so I don't know if it would be helpful not to call him Dave, but I think it was helpful. Or you folks can, it was helpful for me to understand a little bit about what the challenge is with respect to making that determination.
Like the chair pointed out for that particular homeless project on Sand Island, the cost of I think the meter was pretty substantial. It just keep in mind that 971 is a very soft number. It really is going to be focused on units that get developed, and the idea is that we want to encourage more units to be developed. So the number might go up, and we would just report back to the board what the number is in terms of dollar amount per year. So what we'll do is probably in subsequent years, probably budget a certain amount of money in the budget, acknowledging that we won't get the revenue of maybe $1 million a year. But the actual number will depend on how many people actually come in to apply. And the meter cost will be what it is. It will just report what it is and what is the water system facilities charge. So it's really up to the board if you want to consider both.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, maybe we can entertain a motion.
We need a motion.
Yes,
Yes.
actually, this is for a board action, but I just thought about one thing. So if a project came in and we're at 480 units waived that qualify as single, affordable or homeless, but the project has, and so that leaves maybe 20 units of waivers left. The project has 40 units of affordable units or homeless units, so they may only get a waiver for a portion. So it really is, it's first come, first serve. But if the project that's last toward the end of the year, when the 500 units are almost used up, may get a partial waiver of some of the charges.
So I think what we need today, Ernie, is you just need direction as to what the board, where the board wants to go, and then
Yeah.
the department will draft up some
So what
more formal
yes,
rules.
yeah, what I propose to do is here with the board input and the board's direction on which alternative, 1, 2, or 3, and we would take that direction. Now try to craft a much more detailed language. Bring it back to the board in July, at the board meeting in July. Pretty much the pre-final or final draft of the schedule of rates and charges with all the language that would go into the actual resolution of the rates and charges. That would give also at the board in July 23rd meeting, and it's very important that we hold the July 23rd meeting because we need the 30 days public hearing notice to go out at least 30 days before the August 27th board meeting. Then the board would have a chance to look at the final draft version of the schedule rates and charges. My proposal is to actually look at that and have that before the board in July.
Okay. So perhaps we can entertain a motion, general motion, basically giving the department some direction as to which alternative
Yes.
and whether we should go with both the water systems facilities charge and the meter charges, or just the water systems facilities charge itself.
Right.
You want a motion?
Yes.
I move that we give as direction our support for alternative 2 with both meter and facility charges included.
Pending drafting final rules.
Exactly. Can I, because we jumped over something that was important. You were saying that if a project comes in
Partial.
And partial.
We have only so much more in terms to reach the 500 units, the allocation.
Okay, I would hope that we would give that project full and just take it away from the upcoming year. But no, I mean, no other projects would sneak in under the, I mean, I would stop at that project, but I just have a hard time thinking that you're gonna give partial credit.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to point out with the use of a number of units per year, the projects may not cleanly fit within that number. The last project in may only get a partial.
I would like to give the staff discretion to solve that in a manner that is reasonable and fair.
So say the last, so we'll have to work some language, and we welcome your input on some of that language, especially for that last project that's
Okay.
close to the 500 limit and how to handle that project.
You can always come back before the board to,
Right.
at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Again, that would be a great project probably to have.
So I believe we do have a motion on the floor, and that's to go, basically expressing the direction to go with alternative number 2, limiting this program to 500 units for both, and with respect to both the water systems facilities charge as well as the meter charge.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is the adoption of resolution number
Yeah, 500.
888, 2018. This is acceptance of a gift to the Board of Water Supply from Hawaiian Earth Recycling LLC in support of the 2018 annual Lava Xeriscape Garden Open House and Unthirsty Plant Sale.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to you and Vice Chair Sprode on your reelection. Every year, Hawaiian.
This is Kathleen Pahinui,
Yes, the chair.
Information Officer for BWS.
Thank you. Every year, Hawaiian Earth Recycling is generous in their donation of mulch for our giveaway at the Unthirsty Plant Sale. And as required by law, we need to have the board accept this gift. And so we would appreciate a motion to accept this gift in the value of $925 for our plant sale on August 4th.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded for acceptance, the resolution number 888, 2018, the body of which is incorporated into the record. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries, and please give our regards and thank you to Hawaiian Earth Recycling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the items for information. First up is the update on the water rate study and public hearings that were held on April 26th, May 14th, May 15th, and May 24th, 2018.
Thank you. Along with some additional updates. Some of this information, how come you're not working? Ellen turned it off. Thank you. Okay, as mentioned at the last board meeting, we held 4 public hearings. These were notice sunshine public hearings. So as Manager Lau mentioned, the one next month will actually be a 5th public hearing. We had a total of about 65 attendees to come to the meeting. 4 people spoke in testimony. All the meetings were televised or are being televised on Alelo. They're also available on our website. And in this month's packet, all the minutes from all 4 meetings were submitted to the board. This month, since the last board meeting, we also mailed out a special edition of Water Matters, which is our quarterly newsletter, where we spent the whole issue talking about the water rates, using slides, illustrating with slides from our presentation. From that, we solicited another about 10 more comments from the public, some for, some against, and we are responding to all comments. There's a brief summary, too, of the comments received by letters, email, webmail, and phone. As of yesterday, we've actually reached out to 12 neighborhood boards and had over 430 attendees. Thank you, Kevin went to Waipahu last night. And in general, the rates have been very well received by both the boards and the community. We've also reached out to 10 special interest groups, and as of yesterday, we've also been the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association has reached out to us and asked us for a presentation, so we will be coordinating with them as well. And again, this is just a quick recap of other public outreach we have done, including council members. And since we met last, we're closing on, we probably are about 1,000 page views of our rates. We have a button right on our homepage that says proposed draft rates, so people can go right to that page without having to search. And of the 943, 727 are what we call uniques. They were individuals new to the site. So several people came back several times, but most just came once to look at it. So at this point, I will turn this over to Manager Lau to talk about the Small Business Regulatory Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. So there is a state law that requires us to go before the Small Business Regulatory Review Board for proposed rules that could impact small business, which we did on June 20th. We appeared before the board, and the board was very complimentary, and they voted unanimously to support us in this rate proposal. There's also a requirement for a 30-day public hearing, notice of public hearing. Thus, like I mentioned earlier, that the public hearing is proposed to be held on August 27th as opposed to next month. There is a requirement, like I mentioned earlier, to submit a post-hearing small business impact statement and appear again before the Small Business Regulatory Review Board, which we will do after, should the board actually take an action in August. And the rule will become effective, so the scheduled rates and charges will become effective 10 days after filing with the city clerk specified in the rule. They also mentioned we seem to be, for the City and County of Honolulu, one of the first agencies that come before them. Just recently this year, they did reach out to the city to get an understanding of its rules and regulations. Kauai County and Maui, Kauai and Maui water departments have reached out to them and appeared before them prior on changes to their rates and charges and also their water, impact fees. So should we do an action to update our impact fees, our water system facilities charges? We'll be sure to factor in the SBRRB review before and after. Any questions?
And then finally, we have just an update on our process review. You can see that we've continued public outreach through, actually it will be through August. We have a couple board meetings that are pending for August as well, and then pending board approval in the month of August at the end of the month. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, if none, I just wanted to thank everyone involved in this process of getting the word out and this outreach. It's not simple to have 4 public hearings that are noticed. And on top of that, you have the many neighborhood board meetings that staff attended, as well as the many special interest groups that we reached out to. So to the staff and even to the public and people who came and testified, and even those who didn't testify but just came and took a look at what we were presenting in terms of the rates. Mahalo nui loa for your time. I know that these evening meetings require off from family and personal time, and I think this is an important part of the process. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda is the water system revenue bonds and the compliance with the rate covenant.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like our Waterworks Controller, Mr. Joe Cooper, to present the report, which is a requirement of our bond covenants.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, Board members. As the manager mentioned, our water system revenue bond resolution requires that we review our financial position and estimate whether our net revenues are sufficient to pay our debt service every year. And we have taken a review of our financial status, and I can report that for fiscal years 2018 and 2019, we have sufficient net revenues. Attached in your packet are two schedules, one for year-to-date FY 2018, and then a projection for fiscal year 2019. In both of those, our net revenues will be about $100 million. Our debt service is approximately $16 million this year and $18 million next year, which give us a net revenue requirement of about $20 to $21 million. So our $100 million in expected net revenue is well in excess of our requirement. Are there any questions? I'll be happy to take questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Great news.
Thank you.
Next up is the status update of groundwater levels at all index stations. Chair recognizes Barry Usman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Congratulations again. We've had no index wells in low groundwater status as of May. Production was 135 million gallons per day, and that's about 5 million gallons below our 5-year average, moving average for this time. The rainfall is still above normal, and but the signs of drought are showing up. The drought monitor shows abnormally dry conditions in Leeward, Oahu, and our water levels are showing either static or declining trends as we get into the summer season. So we'll continue to monitor it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the report.
Thank you, Harry.
Next up is water main repair report for May 2018. Chair recognizes Mike Puke.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya, members of the board. For some reason, and we were lucky, knock on wood, we had only 13 breaks during the month of May. Unfortunately, it's short-lived because in June we were over 30 right now, so, and you know, it's not quite to the end of the month. But we were fortunate. The leak detection surveyed 52 miles, and I believe we found 4 leaks that we got to before we got into any problematic issues. Okay. Any questions?
Members, any questions?
Thank you.
For the report.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we are at the end of our regular agenda. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session? Moved, seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.